Hi. So we're on page 51 right now, starting chapter 5. The boys got out of the car. Yes, it was true. The right rear tire looked like it had been in a fight and had lost. Mr. Garvey stared at it, more shocked than angry. He seemed unable to process the idea that this was happening, that things could go this wrong. And then he processed it after all. He gave a great unholy yell and kicked the dead tire as hard as he could. Winston took a step backward. "Do we have a spare?" Jake asked. Mr. Garvey stopped kicking and looked around as if surprised to see the kids staring at him. He nodded, a bit wild-eyed. A spare, he said, like he didn't even know the word. A spare. Maybe he thought Jake was referring to bowling. Then he regained his senses and said, "Yeah, of course I do." He opened the car's large rear door and began removing the supplies he had placed there. "This is going to take a few minutes," Mr. Garvey said. "This is terrible. Just terrible." "Can we help?" Winston said. Mr. Garvey waved his hand as if the question itself was too much interference. "I know how to change a tire. Just stand back. I need 15 minutes. That's all I need." They watched him get set up for a minute or two, feeling useless. Then Jake elbowed Winston. "I want to go back to the parking lot for a minute. Come on." So the three boys walked back to the potato chip factory. The visitors' lot had only a couple cars left in it. All the puzzlers were gone. Mal looked behind him at Mr. Garvey, on his knees, removing the lug nuts. He said, "If he finishes that tire and we're not there ready to go, he's going to have a heart attack." Jake said, "I know, but I want to see something. Where were we parked? Here, right?" They looked around. Seems right," Winston said. "Maybe one space over." "Yeah, look." Jake nudged some green shards of glass with the toe of his sneaker. "Whoa," said Mal. "Broken glass in a parking lot. Never seen that before." Jake gave him a withering look. "Do you see glass anywhere else in the lot? Look around." They glanced up and down the gray asphalt. Winston couldn't see any broken glass anywhere except where they were standing. "So that's what gave us the flat tire," Winston said. Jake nodded. "I think somebody did it to us on purpose." "What?" Winston blinked. "Did you hear that popping sound right as we started moving?" Winston thought. "Yeah, I heard that." "He's got the tire off," said Mal, gesturing back to Mr. Garvey. "Let's start walking, huh?" So they started back to Mr. Garvey's car, walking slowly. Jake kept talking. "You know Mark Maslos from the baseball team?" "Mm-hmm. He was a big kid, born to play sports. He told me once about getting revenge on his older brother. They didn't get along well. Mark wedged a bottle under the wheel of his brother's car nice and tight. The brother started the car, tried to back up, and bam! Instant flat tire. He says next time his brother picks on him, he's giving him 4 flat tires." "Okay, maybe we drove over some broken glass and that's just that," Mal said. Jake shrugged. "Maybe. But I think that popping sound we heard was the bottle breaking." "Who put it there?" Winston asked. "One of the kids of that math teacher's team?" He made the mistake of saying this as they neared Mr. Garvey's car. Mr. Garvey had just gotten the spare tire into place and was screwing the lug nuts back on. He craned his head around. "What math teacher? You mean Mr. Denham?" There was an uncomfortable pause. Then Winston said, "We think someone gave us a flat tire." Mr. Garvey sat up a little straighter and clenched his lug wrench in his fists. His eyes widened. "Denham," he growled. "He knows I'm out to beat him. Would he do that? Would he really do that?" "I don't know," Winston said quickly. "It could have been somebody else." "We just can't figure how they did it," Mal said. "Come on," Jake said. "How hard is it to pop a bottle under somebody's tire?" "We were all standing right there," Mal reminded him. "We would have noticed it if somebody started crawling under our car." Mr. Garvey lowered the car from the jack and made sure the lug nuts were tight. "Boys, Get in. He said while he did this, we'll have to worry about it later. Right now, we don't have any proof that anybody gave us a flat tire. That means it's up to us to make up for lost time. It could be a real setback, but it won't be because we won't let it be, right? The boy stared at him. I said, right? Oh, that wasn't a rhetorical question. Now the boys all hastily agreed. Right, absolutely. But Winston wondered how they could possibly catch up. Now, Mr. Garvey wasn't driving recklessly exactly, but he was going fast enough that Winston checked his seatbelt a couple of times. Winston could see the teacher's expression in the rearview mirror, and it was one of grim determination. They might not catch the other teams, but it wouldn't be because Mr. Garvey was afraid to exceed the speed limit. After a few minutes of driving in silence, Jake turned on the mini computer. Diddle-dee-dee-dee, it said. Can I see that thing? Winston said, and Jake handed it to him. Winston turned the computer around in his hand, examining it. Incredible when you thought about it. Dimitri Simon must have spent a small fortune having these things made. You couldn't just go to a store and buy special puzzle hunt computers. As Jake had said, there were 6 numbered buttons on the screen. Right now, all but the first of these was useless. The 7th button said status. Winston pushed this. The device mulled it over for a few moments and then informed him, please check back later. Okay then. He called up the information about the Space Museum. Winston had been there a few times on field trips with school mostly. He wondered if the puzzle would be right there where they could see it, or if they had to hunt around for it. He wished there was something about that puzzle here, something they could begin thinking about. But other than the map and the instructions about how to get in free, there was nothing but the input box for when they had the answer. Glancing up at Mr. Garvey, who probably wouldn't approve of him fooling around like this, he moved the cursor into the answer box and typed in a made-up word, Glohonkin. He hit enter. The device once again thought for a moment or two, then responded with, that is not the right answer. Big surprise. Winston turned off the computer. I wish I'd brought a puzzle book for travel time, he said. You'll have all the puzzles you can handle in just a while, Mr. Garvey said. Don't tire out your brain, Mal said. Winston's brain doesn't get tired. It's scary. I don't know how he turns it off long enough to even sleep. Well, look on the floor, Mr. Garvey said. You might find a math book down there. I'm sure they'll have something puzzly in it. Winston felt around under the seat and sure enough came up with an old workbook with various math and number games in it. He flipped through it until he came to something interesting. Time to stop for a puzzle. We're on page 56. Let me see. So when I look in my Winston Breen packet, I'm going to open it to the puzzle that says it's on page 56. See you in a moment.